morning, good evening, wherever you're watching us from. My name is Mima Shadumo, and today you're welcome to Unfiltered Talk with Mima Shadumo. Today we're being joined by a prominent voice, a very vocal voice in the legal system in our country, Dr. Barrister Osaigi Obayuwana. He's a legal luminary, I would like to say that, a vocal voice, and he was a former presidential candidate of the National Conscience Party, NCP, and in the year 2007. I stand to be corrected, sir. Additionally, he has served as the Attorney General under the administration of the former public governor in Edo State, Comrade Adam Oshinole. And he wears a lot of caps, a lot of feathers. I would allow him to do that. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for being us to come to the house. Very much. Would like you to please give us a brief insight on who Dr. Barrister Osaigi Obayuwana is. I know who I am. Definitely you are. Yes, Osaigi Obayuwana. Osaigi Obayuwana. Yes. I'm a practitioner. That's about it. So, sir, I would like to examine the political system from the pre-colonial times to colonial times and to Nigerian politics today. From your standpoint as a legal luminary, how would you describe Nigerian political system, sir? Nigeria remains a country on fulfilled dreams. The different component parts that make up Nigeria today were at different levels of development before our contact. Well, for this part of the world, this part of the continent, talking about Benin, when this interview is taking place, we know that our people made contacts with the Europeans many, many years ago. Contact with the Portuguese predates contact with the British by over 400 years, whereby the relationship that the Benin people had with the Portuguese, on the line was some mutually respectable cases. There was even exchange of diplomats. I think the Portuguese were overwhelmed with what they saw, level of development of statecraft, the division of labor, the laws that existed. So they were fascinated. And the trades that took place was mutually respectable and beneficial basis. You can't say that for all parts of present-day Nigeria, because you know the history of the Benin people and the Yoruba people as the common ancestry, their cousins. I'm going to say they are stepmoms. Yes. So all that was before the contact with the white man. But then the trade in human beings, enslaved, was a major development. How the introduction of guns in particular empowered conquest of labors for purposes of capture of enslaved persons. And that's took place for 400 years. 400 years. But by and large, the Portuguese were like front runners who by and large were overtaken, at least in this part of the continent, by the British and the French. To understand the Germans
That is why Cameroon, presently Nigeria, now Benin Republic, Ghana, and all of that. These are really products of the colonial experience, whereby these colonizers fought wars amongst themselves, assaulting control. Yeah. But the interesting thing is that Benin wasn't conquered. It was one of the last to be conquered. The Captain Phillips expedition. Uh, Phillips and Co uh, they were stopped at the borders by Benin immigration officers who insisted that they must have a visa before they come into the country to see the king. But it was too much of an affront to the British that had boasted at the Berlin Conference in 1885 that we have conquered the whole of Nigeria. Here we were having to contend with the sovereign authority. Point to be made is that the need in terms of statecraft have customs officers that were exacting customs duties. And they had immigration officers that were insisting on visas. You can't see the upper unless you are permitted to. Can you imagine the present day world, a group of young men insisting by force of arms that they must enter into your country? So there's a way in which Benin came late into Nigeria, haven't attained very high level of development of statecraft. So the challenge really, because if you read the history of British conquest, the major tool that they used was divide and rule. So they use religion, they use ethnicity. If you look at the books, the policemen that aided the conquest and retention of Lagos, they are from the north, who were forbidden from interacting with the locals. So the seeds of division were sown during that era. In other words, we are facing in Nigeria the task population bill by what appears to be disparate groups who had relationship before the coming of the colonizers. But the decisive nature of the trade in slaves and the colonial experience, and particularly the utilization of divide and rule, created obstacles. So that's why you see right from colonial times up to the 1960s. So it's not about the colonial masters, but the fact that the out of the divided, even before the colonial masters came into. We had our groupings and we were interacting, but no concept of one nation now, as opposed to smaller separate nations. It's a process that was dominated by a force not committed to fostering unity. We talked about Nigeria being a country of opportunities. Yes. And right now, relating it to the fact that we share a common history, we share a common ancestral values, would you say that Nigeria still has the opportunity to regain its lost glory? Because I feel the 10 Nigeria has been associated with the giant of Africa. I feel it's the lost touch. Now, when people refer to Nigeria as the giant of Africa, I think by and large, you're talking about numbers. Yes, in terms of population. That's the first one. That's the first one. Yeah. In terms of population. Population, yes. Not by achievements. In terms of land mass, Nigeria is not the largest country in the continent. But for one reason or the other, which we also trace the history, we have the largest concentration of African people banded together within one national boundary. Yes. To what extent have we been able to meet the day-to-day needs of these huge numbers? For water, for light, for education, for healthcare, for roads, for schools, for hospitals. To what extent are we meeting the needs of this huge population? What is the quality of leadership we have had that has embraced this task? Appreciating that not only do we have an obligation to these 250 million people, as a matter of fact, to see the task at that of meeting the aspirations of all African people, taking the lead in terms of ideas, how forward looking are we committed to dealing with the challenges confronted with the mass of our people, as opposed to elitism and the creation of opportunity for a few to become billionaires and trillionaires. Is it not a shame that they say Nigeria is the poverty capital of the world? With all our endowments. So if we have these huge numbers, I think the task is to equip this mass of our people with skills. That's what we're going to. We have to adopt a system of governance that is committed to the best interests of all, not a handful. The colonial government, when we want to go back again to the pre-colonial times, even at that time, we were closest to that. But the colonial government was parochial. The rules that were had were only those that will facilitate the export of the raw material they were interested in. The schools that were established were intended to train the staff that they needed for colonial governance. We have not really moved away from that. By the time we appreciate that the strength in numbers has to be tied to the skills possessed by these numbers, and then be committed to putting in what it takes. So when we argue that free education as a matter of right, it's not a favor. We're simply talking about equipping the youth with the skills with which to serve the nation. Right now, for instance, why is it that the roads that are tarred in Nigeria are still being done by German companies and Lebanese companies and foreign companies? Why is the contract system here? Is it to say that we don't? Do those people not use Nigerian trained engineers? So there's a symbiosis between those who have occupied leadership position and these foreign companies. So it's safe to say we're still stuck in the past. Yes, the ideals that motivated the formation of the National Conference Party by the lines of our great leader, Chief Benikawe, is informed by this commitment. Yes, poverty can indeed be abolished. All forms of poverty. We have what we call the 10-care program. How can you have a nation of hundreds of millions of starving people in the midst of great potential? So we talk about the food care. Why should people die of preventable diseases? Dysentery from drinking contaminated water. Why should people go? That's the healthcare.
Yes.
Yes. Why should people go through so much stress to move from one place to the other?
To access good healthcare system.
And so on, and education, and so on and so forth. The right to a job is actually a mirror of an obligation. You can't acquire skills and turn out idle. That's the way it is right now. We have graduates unemployment.
A lot of empowerment programs without organizations to employ them.
Yeah. So these are the things I say, look, we can do it differently. But talking about elections.
That's a very deep history there. A very deep history.
You see that the best is yet, to go through the processes and find themselves in positions of authority, in charge of the machinery.
So do you believe that we have the best hands right now in this country to take over the seat of governance and pilot the affairs of the state?
They are there in Nigeria, but they are not in office. There are those who will not succumb, to kowtowing. The party system right now does not encourage the best. Their definition of loyalty is blind loyalty. You talked about my service as Attorney General.
Yes.
In the government that I served, criticism and self-criticism form the basis of public administration for the limited period. The governor under which I served as Attorney General will attest to this. It used to be that executive council meetings, were hot. We insisted on the tool of persuasion, not simply because the governor has said this. Say, no, Mr. Governor, I believe this executive council is about to make a mistake for the following reasons. And at that time, Mr. Governor, Governor at that time, you will listen. And then we opened up the process for popular participation. Since that first tenure of the Oshomole government, tell me when public sittings for the consideration of programs that, since then, no. So you don't really need to be in public office to bring forward the best of ideas. As I've asked us to mention a few weeks ago, there is the African Charter on Popular Participation in Governance. Incidentally, in pre-colonial times, that was the norm. The king will speak last.
The king?
Yes, he will speak last. He must hear from the people. If you have a matter of urgent national importance, you have a right to go to Government House, which was the King's Palace, and raise your hand that I have a matter of urgent public importance. And by law, the king was obligated to say, who is that? What does he have to say? Can you go to any government house today now and say that?
Talking about our rights, our obligations as citizens, is there a law that can hold public office holders accountable when they fail to fulfill their mandate? Because, like you said, that there was a time during the colonial times when you had to go to the government house and raise your hand, talk about an issue that you feel is bothering you as a citizen, and the king speaks last. And I think the king speaking last means giving a positive response.
Yeah, it's done by all the inputs.
All the inputs.
And then he throws it back to the people. Is this what you say you want? And they say, yes. It's carried.
So now, is there a constitution, not just written, that we can use?
Yes. Now, I mean, the rights of the people to participate in the formulation of policies, the monitoring of the implementation of those policies, and the review of those policies. They are there in Chapter 2 of the Constitution. But unfortunately, that chapter of the Constitution is not justiciable in the sense that you cannot go to court to insist on the exercise of those rights. You of the media, you are referred to as the fourth estate of the realm. In the Constitution, you are recognized. Your role in holding public office holders accountable and to empower the mass through your work to play that role. Now, a forward-looking government that appreciates, so that will be good for the country. First and foremost, will make that section of the Constitution, that chapter of the Constitution, will make it enforceable and justiciable. And accessible. Yeah. And then go out of his way to train the people in the exercise of those rights. That you do have a right to hold us accountable. You do have a right to make suggestions to us. We are your servants. What is that the other avenue right now? You just hear budgets being made and passed and implemented. Even the laws that provide for the process of the award of contracts, are they followed today? So the bulk of our people are at the level of onlookers and bystanders. They ask us to wait until the next election. Whereas the true test of democracy is what happens in between elections. What happens in between elections? The role of the people in the management of public affairs in between elections. So there cannot be talk about deepening democracy without addressing these issues. The trade unions, the youth organizations, civil society groups, women organizations, if they don't know it, it is part of the burden of the state to teach these organizations that you have a role to play in deepening democracy and holding those of us in public office accountable. So we hold workshops and all of that. Out of the many feathers that Dr. Osaige, Dr. Barrister Osaige Obayuwana wears, is the fact that he's a human rights activist. And that brings us to the fact that you belong to a group, a community, which I was surprised when doing a research to find out that you are a strong and active member of women in Nigeria. One thing, why are you part of a women-led society? Women in Nigeria, so to say, was not just an organization led by women. It's an organization committed to the upliftment of women. Now, the leadership of that organization long time ago appreciated that there are men who are also committed, to the quest for the upliftment of our women folks. You cannot clap with one hand. We have been told today that in terms of numbers, there are probably more women than men. So don't forget that as a disadvantaged group, we suffer discrimination. There used to be a time when people felt, why train a daughter who will soon get married? Forgetting that they also have men or sons who will marry these women. And so, if the young lady your son is going to be married possessing skills and any power, it's going to be an asset. Many people didn't look at it that way. So by the time you have more than half of your population women without skills, without education, without the benefits of the wisdom that have been accumulated over the years, such a society is shortchanged. And in the final analysis, we find abhorrent the practice of discrimination on the basis of gender. Yes. I mean, taking it to a different level, Why do you say female? Eh? Why do you say human? In dealing with women, why must you always relate them to man? Why can't we talk about persons? Equality of persons. So a nation that kills more than half of its population, underprivileged, discriminates, such a nation shortchanges itself. So women in Nigeria was a formidable organization, and we gladly contributed our little quota to at least drawing attention to the shortcomings. Of course, we subscribe to the policy of no discrimination on any basis. Somebody once had a dream and said that people should be judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. So when you extend that, why should a person be judged by her gender? Simply because she's a woman, you conclude that she cannot occupy certain positions. No.
And there is a huge clamor by youths, I like to say youths, to want to have a say to contribute our quota in governance. Recently, on a social media space regarded to as X, that's Twitter, a young lady, a Nigerian copper, went out, she raised alarm about the poor standard of living, which is not blind or deaf to anyone that recently in Nigeria today was struggling to have a balanced lifestyle. So she took to the Twitter space and they called it an hashtag 30 days rant challenge, where everyone needs to come out and let the government in power know what is happening. And while she did that, she was summoned, she was arrested, she was summoned to court that she spoke against the government. Now, this is where we come in. Do you think youths have obligations and rights to call out the government? And do you think this young lady went too far or she went out of line to call out the government that you are not doing the right thing and we are suffering in the country?
First of all, you have freedom of speech, the right to have an opinion, and to share that opinion with other persons in our society. Ideas are supposed to contend. So if anybody believes that our assessment of the reality in Nigeria is wrong, the thing to do is not to stifle that opinion. Anybody holding a contrary view is entitled to say, no, we are enjoying. So it's totally unacceptable. Can you tell the cock not to crow? Or tell the dog not to bark? It's a natural right. Stifling the giving of vent because views emanate from within. As they say, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. Does the stifling of the giving of vent to an opinion change that opinion? It cannot. So it's actually a crime to try to compel people to keep their views to themselves.
Would you say, under the current administration of our president today, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, would you say we have access to justice and to our laws?
Well, living in a country like ours today is filled with so much challenge. How the price of fuel has scuttled the enjoyment of freedom of movement. It's not too difficult to see. So when people are faced with such challenges and they feel aggrieved about developments, and the option of going to court is one that, if they must exercise, is going to place heavy financial burdens on them. How many of them will be encouraged to say, I feel so strongly about this point. I don't care what it costs. I'm going to go pursue justice in the court system. Many lament and resort to prayers and God's day or curses.
I think the later.
Yeah. And then there are others who resort to self-help, what you call jungle justice.
That's where we are going to, sir. There is a recent outcry in the South region. Here we have today, Edo State, and the due to insecurity at a particular part of the state, the Edo Central, and the community people had to take law into their hands because they feel they did not get response from the government of today on insecurity issues regarding X-Men and the Fulani invading their territory. So they resulted into jungle justice. And now it has caused an uproar and in the security system in the center. What's your take on jungle justice?
An extremely high level of frustration. The way it is right now, the police force are supposed to be provide protection services for all. Can we really say that is the order today? Can you call the divisional police officer and expect, you are in distress, you expect rapid response? So when you look at the number of policemen that guard public office holders,
they are more than the ones who are supposed to be our friend.
Well, Mr. President, I've seen some footages. The number of cars in his entourage alone, roads are closed. And that's part and parcel of the attempt to provide him with security against the anger of the people. So you have to wonder how many of these law enforcement personnel that are available at the service of the generality of the people. So there is the sociology of deviant behavior and crime. These issues should be addressed at the root level. I was watching a video a few days ago. People are going to schools to remove doors and windows and protectors. People are removing the railings of bridges. What do you call them? Those covers of manholes. And they feel justified in doing that because they say those in high offices are the ones that have access to the billions. So this one is readily accessible to me. I'm going to help myself.
So to address jungle justice, the government needs to address the root cause. That's coming to the grassroots level and attending to the basic needs. Unfortunately,
victims are preying on fellow victims.
Why would a common man attack a common man?
Because maybe he speaks a different language or subscribe to a different religion, rather than focusing on what we have in common and our common enemy or opponent. And addressing the root cause of the system that perpetuates this. These characters are already talking about 2027.
having this interview section with Dr. Barrister Obayuwana studying on filter, taking us back into when I was still singing hymns with angels in heaven. And today I have the opportunity to learn a lot, and I'm very sure that for our viewers at home, you also have your pen and paper and your book filled up with a lot of lessons learned today. But then again, we'll not be rounding up the unfiltered section without me giving you a drop of ice that Dr. Rice outside Obayuwana here is clocking 70 in few weeks. And like they say, 70 is the new 30. As you can see him, he's bubbling. Like I told him, I said, I think you are the cutest and strongest 70 years old man I've seen. You don't look a day like it. Congratulations, sir. Now, 70 is the new 30. What are your plans moving forward in the regards to staying?
No doubt. Bones are despite the appearance and all of that.
Okay.
We have been, as a matter of life commitment, be concerned about the kind of issues we're talking about. And we can never get tired of talking about it. Justice is a phenomenon that all members of our society are entitled to, as a matter of right. Yeah. Especially the poor, those who have been denied. Why should our people go to bed hungry? Yeah. Why should they live in overcrowded space? Why should our people sleep on the streets? Why should we drink polluted water? Why should our people die when the medication that will keep them alive is available? And the difference between whether they live or die is affordability of that medication. In pre-colonial times, that wasn't the way. When we used to say in our societies of old that the child belongs to the entire community. The child was suffering seizure and the parents are not at home. A neighbor need not be called or need not wait to be called upon to attend to that child. There was no such thing as unemployment. There was access to land for all. When are we going to replicate that? So we hold on passionately to the clamor for this, for the realization of these issues. All those who have led us taught us that, yeah, this is, in fact, that is the will of God for those who subscribe. So what are our priests doing? Can they afford to be indifferent to these issues? Can the women afford to be indifferent to these issues? The youth who are going to be alive for a long time to come ought to appreciate that the earlier these issues are addressed. And then we are not helpless. We are not helpless. Those who are profiting from the system the way it is now, in terms of numbers, they are infinitesimal. But they are also employing that divide and rule tactics that the colonizers did, using religion, using ethnicity,
which is supposed to be our strong point.
Yeah. So the ball is in the court of the victims. Even those who don't feel themselves, strictly speaking, victims, they have a duty. Love thy neighbor as thyself. So these are the issues that in the celebration of a birthday, we're asking our friends to think about. Let us define our role. By the grace of God, we will pray for long life. Till our last breath, we will continue the clamor for a new Nigeria, a new order in the world, where justice reigns for all.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much, Dr. Barrister Obayuwana for doing this with us. I must say that this has been an impactful and insightful session with you, and our viewers at home could not agree less. I would hope to have this amazing opportunity with you again where we can talk more about other pressing issues and solutions to them as regarding our country today, Nigeria. My name is Nima Shagumo, and thank you all for joining us on Unfiltered Talk with Nima Shagumo. So when next we come your way again, stay tuned, stay informed, and stay productive. And don't forget, there's item 7, even if Barrister Osaigi Raiwana's mindset is to make sure that his birthday celebration is still to drive the good cause for Nigeria. Please, item 7 is there. Come and be merry. Thank you very much.